This is week 2 of Coffee Break Comics.
It is.
And this week we are just going to focus on a theme. What is this theme, you might ask? Well, we'll tell you. We're going to look solely at some supernatural comics. So these are books that are all sort of based around horror themes, mainly prevailing to supernatural, not the show. Although we might do a separate one.
I've tried, viewers.
We'll do a separate one on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we've picked 5 that we think sort of cover across the board, would you say?
Yeah. Like our top recommendations, like if you wanted to look at comic books that involve supernatural horror elements, these are the ones that we recommend. And we've tried to go kind of not big, massive publishers for it as well, like the more indie stuff, for a lot of it anyway. So
yeah, so we've picked you a mixture. So whether you like vampires or zombies or witches or creatures, we think that we've got something that's going to tickle your pickle.
I think we've got a good broad range.
Yeah, we have a good range. Yeah, so if this is where, if you're just starting to get into this sort of thing, this is probably going to be quite a good jumping off point for you, for things to have a little look into, and we will include the info of where you can pick them up as well in the comments and in the box, so you can find out where to get them from. Yes, down there. All right, cool. So
in the description below, so I'm trying to be like a cool YouTuber.
Cool. So we're going to kick off the party with a pretty big one. Winner of many awards.
My favourite on the list.
Georgie's favourite on the list. Some of our dear friends. It's These Savage Shores from Vault Comics, which
conveniently
right there.
At the minute.
So that is the trade paperback, and that's the Travelling Man special. Am I right?
I think this is one I got from Gosh in London, and it came with a really cool art plate too.
Yes.
There's a red cover and a black cover you can get, and I'm not sure which is the Travelling Man special. If it's the red or the black.
I'm not sure. They did a few different variants. They were floating around Thought Bubble last year, so I picked mine up from there. There's a few different ones you can pick up. They also have, obviously, the first 5 in floppy form. 5. And those covers individually are beautiful.
They're really, really stunning.
And there are a set. Have you seen the ones that are just like white with the overlay in the block colours?
No, but that sounds amazing.
They look amazing. We will show you that as we go. So These Savage Shores then, Georgie, do you want to tell us what it's about and who's involved?
So, I was just going to get vampires, but that's like, no. These Savage Shores is written by Ramvi, who is an absolute angel.
He is also the best hair in comics.
I know, I remember, because when I met him for the very first time at Thought Bubble, I walked up to him and said, I'm so sorry, you're so talented. And he goes, please don't apologise to me for me being talented. And I just went, you've got amazing hair. And I was like, Heather was trying to drag me away to preserve what little dignity I had left. Didn't work.
No. But it's all good fun.
Yeah, we've got Sumit Kumar on your art, Vittoria Restoni on your colours, and the one and only legend Aditya Bidakar on lettering.
Yeah.
That's a dream team if you ever heard it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a powerhouse of right there. Definitely. So what was it about Savage Shores that drew you in?
So I love vampires anyway, as everybody knows. And no surprise there. I think what I really like about these Savage Shores is it's not like a modern vampire, it's all kind of East India Trading Company, and it's not a really kind of Western-centric vampire novel. You've got the elements of the, East versus West, and the different cultures and different folklore from different cultures coming together. I think is really, really fascinating, and it's done beautifully as well. And I think it's just a really great kind of fusion of myths and things like that. I'm a big fan. Yeah. What about you? Because I know you love it too.
I think a lot of it, is the same sort of things that you've touched upon just then. Visually, it's got some of the most impressive artwork and designs that I've seen ever, and I've read like a lot of books. There's also Tim Daniel involved in the designs of the book, and there's just so much in every panel, and it's like
there are some bits of the paneling is just. Can I show this? I bought it.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
There are some bits, like you said, the paneling is just so dynamic.
Try and find the page of him right at the beginning where he's jumping out the window with the fire.
I like this look. That with the fire. Okay.
Yeah, when they're
talking about how great it is, I'll try and find it.
Yeah, so it's right at the beginning. It's a really sort of green page. It's a 9-panel, and he's jumping out the window.
It's so beautiful.
This for me was like, yes, here we are. So we'll pop a picture up of this so you can see it a bit better. But you can see in the bottom 6 his whole journey coming out that window, and it's just perfect. So perfect.
It's composed so beautifully, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. I think they've put together something that's really gonna like stick around for a long time and be on a lot of best lists for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the year it came out, it was on pretty much every best list, I think, wasn't it? Rightly so, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely picked up a lot of awards last year for best books, best, new series, best lettering, artwork, and all the whole shebang. It really won. It did sweep the board.
It really did.
And rightly so, to be honest, and rightly so.
So I would definitely recommend, I think, for your first foray into supernatural comic books.
Comic horrors.
There you go.
Comic horrors.
Those things.
Yeah.
I think you couldn't start at a much better place than New Savage Shores.
Yeah. If you like vampires and are maybe fed up of white ones and being in Transylvania and being cold, these Savage Shores will pretty much warm you from the inside out with fear.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like, so this was one of the few that I picked up in trade and in floppy form. And it was my bath book for ages because it was just so intensely good that I would just sit and read. And then before I knew it, like, it would be like an hour later, my bath had gone cold. It's like...
I was sat reading in the bath last night. I'm not even joking. I was actually sat doing
comics in the bath are the way forward.
Absolutely.
This is a hill I will die
on. I'm right there with you.
Okay, so moving on from the vampires, we are going to their not so distant cousin, to the Wytches.
The Wytches with a Y.
Yeah, we're talking about Wytches with a Y. So Wytches from Image Comics, written by Scott Snyder, art by Jock, and colours by Matt Hollingsworth. This is another one that really gets a huge amount of acclaim.
Yeah, I think it's stunning. I mean, I really like the story, but I think the art in it is just really something special.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement in a lot of those panels, and where Savage Shores is really considered and really sort of traditional and fine art, I think this is a lot more sort of, I want to say aggressive in its art style, but like in a really good way.
Yeah, I think basically we don't do spoilers, you know this, so it'll be vague. There's a lot of running away from issues and running away from things that happened in Wytches, and I think that that's really, really kind of encapsulated quite nicely in the art, because it is very quick and hurried and frantic, and it's very, you get that sense of being rushed.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. There is only volume 1, which is a shame, but it's also not a shame because it's so perfect, so don't make any more. But then they did also do the
No,
Halloween special as well, which was really good, and again just chilling. Okay, so next up then is we're going into the woods, into the Wendigo Woods.
Yes, we are.
Yes. So if there's anything I love, it's Wendigo.
This is true.
So for those,
They're vampires to me, basically.
yeah, pretty much. So for those who don't know, a Wendigo is a forest spirit from generally originating from Native American folklore, but there is also a bit of it sort of just creeping into Canada and basically places where it's cold and snowy and there's lots of trees and people may or may not have eaten other people at some point during a really bad winter or a bad war. So basically they're the angry spirits. They've been in different forms, in different mediums for many a year. Fans of Hannibal will know what I'm talking about with the big doodads. If you played Until Dawn, they were more long-limbed, sort of wall crawly guys. But in Wendigo Woods, they're going back a bit more towards their foresty, antlered, classic aesthetic. So Wendigo Woods is written by Joey Olivia. I can never pronounce your surname, Joey. I'm very sorry. Yeah, just it's our friend Joey from Afterlight.
Yeah, we call him Joey.
Yeah, Joey. He writes Wendigo Woods. The cover for Wendigo Woods #1 is by Chris Sheehan, and it's beautiful. I have, I think, that print and the I think I have 2 copies of it on the wall.
I think I know what you're even talking about. Yeah.
There's like 2 different, slightly different types, but they're both on the wall. And the art is by Vukasin Ivakovic. And again, it's just a really good, chilling introduction into that sort of folklore.
It is. It's very folk horror, and it's creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy is it's like it sends a cold horror shiver down your spine. And I think I really love seeing folkloric horror in comics because I think it's such a great medium for it because so much of the folklore has been told through art. I think seeing it in comic books is just like, mwah.
Yeah, it's like a really perfect way to hand them down now. Like you can put them, in sort of a really accessible medium, and we can keep passing the stories on. So Wendigo Woods is the story of one man's search for his daughter who's gone missing in the Wendigo Woods, and he's accompanied by his little dog. There's all things that we love. It's published by Afterlight, who do a lot of horror comics. They do a supernatural horror series that are just folklore, which is called Folk Tales of the Cryptids, which #2 I think has just finished on Kickstarter. They're really good. So the first one featured things like Chupacabra, who's a personal favourite of mine. I think Mothman as well. Yeah, and just generally those sort of little folklore heroes that you love. And they do a psychological horror called Stay Awake, which is also really good.
Yeah, Afterlight put out some really amazing stuff, and I think, like you said before, they've got the different. It's horror as a broad umbrella term, but then they've got the folklore, they've got the psychological stuff, and they cover loads of different facets of it, and they do all of it really well.
Yeah,
which is completely unfair because how can you do all so well?
Easily some of the best British horror that's out there right now.
Hands down, yeah, definitely.
Up next, then we're going. Oh, we're staying in the woods.
Staying in wilds.
Staying in the woods, in the wilds. So the Wilds is published by Black Mask, and this one I absolutely love and was a really early pick up for me. So I've sort of loved this one for quite some time. written by Vita Ayala, art by Natasha Alterici, Marissa Louise, and Emily Pearson. Natasha also does Heathen, which is a big personal fave. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful series.
Yeah, I only read a few of these recently because, like you said, you've had them for a long time. You lent them to me. You said you're going to really like this. Kind of have a read of it, and it's again very considered, very well put together. It all just comes together in a way that is very, very perfect, I think.
Yeah. So the Wilds is a plague has swept across the world, still definitely, maybe more specifically, definitely across America. So people and the survivors are living in sort of compounds that we've come to see in quite a lot of sort of zombie films and TV shows and stuff. So we follow a couple of runners who are just trying to, make a relationship work and trying to survive both in and out of the compounds. The Wilds is like The Last of Us with some really beautiful representation that isn't necessarily that isn't burying your gaze. Like, you'll kind of know what I mean. So there's a lot of representation. It's really good. It's really, really strong comic. Some really good lead characters. Art wise, beautiful. I love the covers. I love the sort of mixture of the sort of horror with nature. That works really well for me. I love the people and the flowers. That's the visual that gets me like every time.
It's stunning, and I think, like you said before, it's quite a familiar concept. Like we've seen, we're in a compound, we're runners, you've got to survive from X, Y, Z. It's a very familiar concept, but I think what the Wilds does, like you said, especially with help from a really unique art style, really individualistic art, is take something that we're all quite used to seeing, makes it new and fresh. And we've got a representation there. You've got all those different elements that kind of bring a new breath of fresh air to what is, by all accounts, a very familiar trope, I think.
Yeah, and I think like Vita is such a confident and competent writer. I mean, I'm sure they're working on like the new James Bond, and they've done some really huge big two stuff since the Wild. And you can already see it in the Wild, like it's all there, like
they're made of greatness, like
100%. Yeah, they're just made of greatness. Okay, so we're going to move on to one that is more of a classic. So this has been out for quite some time, which has recently sort of shot itself back into the limelight thanks to Netflix, which is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So this is part of the Archie family, but more specifically the Archie horror family, which is a really good like publisher. Like, I'm a real fan of a lot of the Archie horror stuff. Yeah, I really love the sort of schlocky teen horror stuff. Like, it's
you
still
like Riverdale, though, don't you?
like I'm right with it. Like Vampironica, that Michael Moriarty did was bitchin'. It was good. I liked it. Bitchin'. Yeah. So Sabrina Volume 1, written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, art by Robert Hack and Jack Morelli. As I said, published by Archie Horror. Such a good series. If you've watched the show, you'll already be sort of introduced to a lot of the characters, and you'll understand a lot of what's going on. But you might find yourself a little shocked with the art style, because it isn't a clean comic that you're maybe expecting it to be. It's a really textured, really, really, really interesting art style. Lots of bold sort of background colors, lots of like, it's really difficult to explain. I'm going to put some panels up so we can all have a little look through, but they're really sort of like bold in what their art style is, and they're really interesting, and there's so many elements to each page. They're really, really complex pages, and there's a lot on each page, but it's still really easy to follow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think sometimes when you make such bold choices, it can be, you never ever want to go through the whole style over. And there's some stuff that I've read that you really do compromise the continuity and the cleanliness of a plot. And so it can be really lacking sometimes when people go for a really stylistic approach.
Yeah.
And it's a shame when it happens. And I've read umpteen things where it's happened, but I think in this, I personally will admit I've not read this volume, but from what you said to me about it, that's not the case, right?
No.
Like you've got a real strong showing from every creator and person involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It's written beautifully. It's illustrated beautifully, and it's a really traditional looking book. Like color wise, it looks like they've been hand painted. You know, each page with like a physical paint. They make really, really interesting use of like blacks and darks and all the shadows and things like that. And each page is just really interesting. And it is something that all works really, really well together. That's your lot for our 5 suggestions of where to start if you're looking to dip your toe in the supernatural horror comics.
I think there's some really good suggestions. I think we've covered a lot of bases.
Yeah.
I think I'd be very happy if someone recommended all 5 of those to me.
Yeah, me too. I feel like they're a good starting point, and some of them are chunky books, so you're going to get your money's worth as well. You're going to be reading for a while. So this has been part 2 of Coffee Break Comics, where we've looked at our top 5 supernatural horror comics. Why
can neither of us
say that? Yeah, we've looked at our top 5 supernatural horror comics. So we covered Savage Shores from Vault. We covered Wytches from Image, Wendigo Woods from Afterlight, The Wilds from Black Mask, and Sabrina Volume 1 from Archie. As always, we will be back to bring you some more. But first of all, Georgie, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking, again, 2 scoops, Nescafe Gold, black, no sugar, in a mug with a cat on it that says, "Me after coffee," and the cat's a superhero, and my cousin got it for me.
It is a work of art.
Isn't it just? What are you drinking? Put me shame.
I am drinking a tiny espresso because I'm out of milk, and it is a caramel espresso from Nespresso.
I did try a Ruby Cocoa hot chocolate today, and it was pink.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
It was good. So
Brand.
That's our horror.
That's your lot. This has been This has not been psychological. This has been supernatural. We will bring you a psychological, maybe next, maybe not next. We'll bring you on at some point. If there's a type of comic theme that you would like us to cover, let us know. Tell us, what is your favorite supernatural horror comic?
Put the recommendations. We need more to read, so
put them in the box. Let us know. And yeah, check out last week's if you haven't already, and we'll be back again sometime soon. Cool. Be good. Have fun.
Always.
Bye.